Hello and welcome to a new video. Today we're going to take a look at the top teams for the Ultra League Premier Cup. Here you're not going to be allowed to use any legendary Pokemon, so Deoxys Defense gone, Cresselia gone, Giratina gone. But the meta itself is going to be still kind of very similar to what you see in the Ultra League anyway. Pokemon like Gaslight, for example, are also not allowed, so any kind of legendary, mythical, Ultra V is not allowed. But yeah, let's move on right into the meta. But before that, feel free to subscribe to the channel. Would really appreciate it. Helps out the channel a lot, and it's free. So let's move on. Taking a look at the meta here right now, we're going to see that Poliwrath is number 1 on the list here, which is going to be interesting. Not sure if this is going to be actually the number 1 Pokemon. It's still going to be a very, very good Pokemon to use. That's like no doubt about this. Second one is going to be for Relegator. I think this is going to be the number 1 pick for most people to run because it's just so safe in the current meta. Then we're going to see some more XL Pokemon like Manabus, like the Pidgeot, like the Skarmory, which are all going to be great. Annihilate, one of the best Saisops together with the Feraligatr for sure in this meta. Goodra, also very good. Maybe I'm going to take a look at this Pokemon first. I have to take a look at this maybe, but like this Pokemon looks really, really great as it's going to be able to beat most of the current meta threats. We're going to have otherwise here Pidgeot going to be very decent also as the Shadow variant, but normal variant is preferred for sure. Empoleon going to be strong. Dragalge, if you have one, you want to play it in this meta, it's really, really good right now. Lantern, it's so overpowered, like Lantern is so strong. Kommo-o as well as Dragonite is going to be very good, but what you can see here as well with the Pokemon that are very decent for this meta, most of them are Pokemon that you're going to encounter in the Open Great League in the same way. So what you're going to see here as well is something like a Dragonite plus the core of Empoleon, or the Skarmory plus something like a Swampert. And so like the meta is going to be very, very similar towards what we're going to have as well. But something that I kind of want to point out as well here very quick for the Ultra League at least, even though it's going to be kind of like the Great League, is that electric types are kinda underrated. Other than like Lantern, it's not really highly ranked, but Magnezone. If you take a look at Magnezone, there are going to be a lot of teams coming up. This Pokemon is literally overpowered in this meta as well, so we're gonna take a look at this. Hopefully you enjoy this video. If you do, feel free to leave a like, but let's move right into the top team. Before we hop onto the first team, if you want to support the channel, there's always the membership option for this, but let's move on into the first team here for today. As you saw most likely in the meta analysis, basically the meta is fairly similar to what you encounter right now in the Open Great League as well. So Pokemon like Dragonite, Feraligatr and Empoleon together would work out pretty well. They work out pretty well together in the Great League, they work out pretty well into this meta. We also have a different option here for this first team, where you can use Dragalge if you have this one built as your lead, say swap the Feraligatr and have the Greninja for example in the back. You can still run also something like the Empoleon in the back, both of which going to be fine here, but definitely still a very solid core in general. This is like one of the most common teams that you see in the Open Great League right now. If you have an XL Lantern, you can also use it in the back here. It is just a very solid lineup. You're going to definitely face this lineup quite often as well, I would imagine, especially as the Dragonite Empoleon core looks kind of broken. So let's move right into the next team. Moving on, we're going to have kind of a reversed option of this team, but yeah, a little bit different still. We're going to have here a Steel type in terms of the Magnezone in the lead this time around. We still have the Feraligatr as a safe swap, and we're going to have still the Dragonite in the back. There are other options as well. For example, if you have an XL Pelipper, this would be also the way to use it here. But as you can see here, Magnezone, one of the most underrated Pokemon. Most likely this thing is going to be so insane to play, just because it's going to be able to do so much damage against basically everything. There are not a lot of ground types that are going to be viable. Of course, there's like the Swampert here or like the Gliscor, but even against Gliscor, your Wild Charge is still doing like only single resisted damage because of the flying typing. Same goes for Swampert, so it's still going to do a ton of damage. And so this Pokemon is going to be very, very good in the current meta. I would really recommend it to use this, and we're going to have quite a few teams with the Magnezone just because it's honestly so solid in the current meta. Team number 3. We're going to have another Great League core here with, of course, the Swampert plus the Skarmory. If you have an XL Skarmory build, this might be the way to go for you. As you're going to see here as well right now, this is going to be a fairly decent team to use. In general, Skarmory looks kind of great for this meta as well. There are a lot of Pokemon that you can kind of beat with this, also something like a Pidgeot, for example. And so the core of Swampert as well as Skarmory is basically always perfect. There's next to no core breaker for this core, and so this team is definitely going to be very, very solid. If you don't have a Swampert, I guess everybody has a Swampert, but like, if you don't have, for example, anything else of it here, you can also use the Goodra in the back. That's why I kind of want to say Goodra helps it out as well with the electric type Pokemon, which can be a little bit tricky with your lead of Skarmory. Saisops of Dragalge would also be very solid for this meta, I would imagine. I don't think there's really a lot that completely awards Dragalge, so I think this Pokemon is fairly safe to use. But also Annihilate is going to be, as we see here as well, one of the preferred save-swaps. Again, a very great league kind of team, and you can still use in this meta just because the meta itself is kind of looking very similar to the Great League meta. So moving on, we're going to have Charm, we're going to have the Shadow Ninetales here. Not too sure if we're going to encounter too many dragons, or like, I guess like dragons we're most likely going to encounter in the lead, but I would imagine that a lot of the fighting type Pokemon are going to lurk more in the back. But still, this team looks kind of solid here with the Lantern, for example. We're going to have a great core. Like, honestly, Lantern plus a low 9-hit core is basically perfect. There's next to no Pokemon that can really core break the core there, which is kind of nice. I guess something like a Galarian Stunfisk, but you don't really see it too often. But yeah, this team again is going to be great. Again, like for this meta, for Alligator as well as Annihilate, going to be the best save swaps for sure. Really, really solid. But let's move on into team number 5. Team number 5, again, we're going to have another Lantern team here. You can't escape the fish. Like, literally, Lantern is going to be one of the best Pokemon that you can run. If you just take a look at this, like, this thing just nearly beats everything here hard, especially. Like, look at the matchup against, like, Tentacruel, the Pidgeot, the Skarmory. Like, so many Pokemon you just completely destroy, which is so important for this meta. So, like, if you have a Lantern build, most likely Lantern is one of the S-tier picks for this meta for sure. We're going to have your Mandibuzz as, like, kind of a save swap, which is going to be able to bait out potential Fairy type Pokemon. Like, we just had a Fairy type basically in the team prior, but I don't really see too many going to be too great for this meta, so I don't really expect that we're gonna see like crazy Fairy type teams, because a lot of Pokemon can also beat them. And then we have in the back kommo-o or Clefable. Like, Clefable is a cool Pokemon to use. It's just very difficult to find a team that really works for it here. You have with Lantern one of the best answers for the Fire-type Pokemon, like the Talonflame, so that's kind of why you can use it in the back here. I would recommend you still like something like kommo. You can still use Goodra, you can still use Dragonite as well. Like, they're all going to be fine, but again, this looks kind of like a solid lineup for sure. Moving on, team number 6. We're going to have a team that is kind of something that you would expect in a normal Ultra League session as well, because we're going to have your Talonflame, Greedent, and Annihilate. Basically, very, very solid core of Greedent plus Talonflame, very, very common core as well. You're still running Crunch here, apparently. I actually wonder, if you take a look at this, maybe something like Trailblaze would be better for this meta, and I think like PvPoke is maybe not correctly upgraded for this. Not too sure, because like Trailblaze is going to be better for you against Poliwrath. Trailblaze is going to be better for you against all the other wild type Pokemon like Lantern, like the Swampert. So I would actually recommend you to go for Trailblaze or Crunch. I didn't look at the moveset itself, but I feel like Trailblaze would be the better move to go for the Ultra League Premier Cup here. But Talonflame and of course also the Annihilate going to be great together with the Greedent save swap here for sure, going to be very, very solid. Actually, in some scenarios, you would actually be able to also go for the Annihilate save swap, which does make some sense as well. But otherwise, here also, interesting enough, Pidgeot really good in the meta as well, so if you want to pitch your team, this works out very well. And also as a save swap, Gallade can be very solid. Team number 7, Double Fighter here. This is going to be one of the teams that I'm looking forward the most. I think it's going to be a great team to use, because Shadow Magnezone, again, is going to be such a strong pick for the current meta. Only real core break here is Gliscor, I guess. Gliscor can be very tricky for this team. I do definitely agree with this, but that's basically it. I guess like Skeledirge, but Skeledirge, again, like your backline is going to be fine against it. You could argue of not going for Ice Punch on Annihilate as well, and rather go for the Night Slash. Like, really depends on what you want to run, but I still feel like this team definitely does make quite a lot of sense. You can also use some different Pokemon here in the lead. For example, Pidgeot would also work out okay for this team, but again, I feel like Magnezone is kind of a very solid Pokemon for this meta right now. Team number 8, we're going to have Skeledirge here. Skeledirge is, of course, a very cool thing here as well. They're kind of new. I guess like the first time where Skeledirge is available for the Premier Cup, because Premier Cup wasn't really around like that often recently. So here we're going to see a very good against Skarmory, Annihilate, as well as Poliwrath. I feel like the stats here show not really the actual potential of this Pokemon, because like I feel like Skeledirge is always like such a Pokemon that's kind of overlooked, and then it's going to be way better when you actually play it. Poliwrath as a save swap kind of makes a lot of sense for the weaknesses that we have here. For example, against Feraligatr, you're going to be great against it, and then something like the Dragonite in the back going to help you out quite a bit as well, especially as Skeledirge is going to be one of the best answers for those Fairy type Pokemon plus those Steel type Pokemon, so very good core together with the Dragonite. And also Poliwrath is definitely going to get out a potential Fairy type Pokemon, maybe even going to be able to punch back with the Scald plus Icy Wind. Of course, if you want to run a Shadow Poliwrath or run a Shadow Poliwrath, doesn't really matter. Let's move on to team number 9. Team number 9 is going to be one of the teams that if you follow this channel quite a bit, you might know this already. I'm kind of curious on how good this team actually going to be. I feel like Venusaur might not be the best pick right now. It's still kind of solid. We're still going to take a look at this here right now. But I feel like that maybe something like the Annihilate would be a little bit better. This was my rank 1 team from, I think, nearly 3 years ago now, where I was like rank 1 in the world for like quite a time, like nearly like a week. I think I could have been even rank 1 for the world like for like 2 weeks if I stopped playing at that point, because I was like so high above everyone else, like nearly 100 points. But yeah, good old times back in the day when I was still tryharding in the game. This team was amazing. I was actually using Shadow Gallade as well here for this team when I played back in the day, and of course it was Confusion Shadow Gallade. Honestly, I feel like Psycho Cut does not really help it for the idea of this team. I feel like Confusion might still be better here, because Confusion was able to kinda flip some matchups over a long time because it just do so much damage with a fast move, but maybe Psycho Cut is going to be a little bit more reliable because you're going to be able to get to the charge move a little bit faster, don't know, but definitely still a very solid lineup here. Curious on if Swampert is going to be a little bit more common now as well, because then Venusaur would be also definitely a little bit better, but it is what it is. Definitely a solid lineup still to use. I think it actually has a lot of potential unless you're going to encounter Dragalge. Final team for today, we're going to have the Machamp here of the peoples. We're going to have the Machamp in the lead, Shadow Machamp, the Feraligatr to say so. Again, you can use the Shadow variant of that Pokemon as well. But in the back, we're going to have the Jellicent. I feel like Jellicent in the back has so much potential right now in the meta. This Pokemon is going to be able to beat all the Fighting type Pokemon, which I would imagine going to be common as a Say-Sub, especially Annihilate, but also going to be good against something like a Skarmory, something like a Tentacruel. It can completely hardwall. So Jellicent, one of the best Pokemon as well, also sometimes kind of overlooked. But this is going to be it for this video. Hope you enjoyed this. If you did, feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you then. Bye bye.